Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's good to see you all as we anticipate drumsticks and gravy and pumpkin pie. There are two things you should know about Rabbi Hodson, two of my biggest dislikes, and I won't judge you if you like these things. Just please don't make me do them or interact with them. Number one is nature. I really don't like the outdoors. I don't like the heat. I don't like the bugs. I don't like the itchy grass. My idea of roughing it is staying at the Marriott by the airport. I don't get why as a society we keep trying to go outdoors. I really don't understand it because for much of human history we were forced to be outside, but now we have evolved into creatures that are able to build magnificent structures. We have homes and buildings and hotels, and they've got magical things in them like air conditioning and television and indoor plumbing. Why would we go outside? I mean, well, my wife will go to a restaurant and they'll say, "Would you want to sit outside?" And I say, "No." And she says, "Yes." Outside, not my thing. I'd much prefer staying indoors and watching HBO. The second thing I really dislike is feeling cramped in a small space. So I'm 6'3", and oftentimes I don't fit anywhere, and I have this irrational fear that I'm going to get stuck in a spot that they can't get me out of. Some people call this claustrophobia. I call it reality. I took my kids to the playground the other day, and they really wanted me to go crawling inside around this play structure with them. They had these tubes that are designed for 5-year-olds. They're like, "Come on, Dad." I said, "I'm not doing that because the last thing I need is to get stuck in one of those, and then they'd have to call the fire department. I'd end up in the paper the next morning. Idiot rabbi pulled out of children's playscape. I don't need that either." So now you know the two things that I really hate. Friends, I really hate these things. Nature and enclosed spaces, okay? Well, allow me to tell you the two types of things that my wife and my best friend love to get me involved in. I bet you could guess: nature and enclosed spaces. When we lived in Las Vegas, Genevieve somehow convinced me to drive to Utah and visit Zion National Park. And any normal person would have really enjoyed this activity because it's breathtakingly beautiful there. But I went and I hated every second of it. And then I got in trouble for hating it, even though she knows that I hate nature. And I remember thinking while I was there, I thought, I don't think there's anything I could hate more than Zion National Park. But last month, I found out that I was wrong. You see, I visited my friend Rabbi Sam Rotenberg in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he introduced me to a new level of hatred, a place called Rock City Gardens. I encourage you, after Shabbat, Google this attraction. I guarantee you'll look at it and say something like, "This looks really pretty." Normal people say that. I did not. This place was like a Jonathan death trap. Not only was it all outside, hence the gardens part, but the whole area is this big rock formation. It's like mountains and mountain trails and all these mountain rocks that almost connect but don't connect. So you're forced to meander through these really tight rock formations that were not designed for people of my size. I was not a happy camper during this experience. There was one part of the gardens, there was a super narrow passageway, affectionately called the Eye of the Needle. And when we got to this part of the park, I took a peek inside of this thing, and it looked like I was not going to be able to walk through it without the walls touching me. I don't do that. So I told Sam, I said, "I'm not going to do this. I am not interested, no." But because he's my best friend, he was able to spew some dumb reasoning at me. I think he quoted the Talmud at one point. I don't even remember what he said. Somehow talked me into doing this thing. I was not happy. I took this deep breath and I said, okay, let's go. And we started walking through this winding rock corridor death trap. And as we were going through, he was ahead of me. I realized that there was no turning back. A, because I don't think I could have turned around because I'm enormous. But B, there were poor people walking behind me in the same direction. So I started feeling really claustrophobic. My solution to this problem was to just start yelling. I was yelling, Sam, just keep walking, just keep going, go, go, go. And in that moment, friends, the universe witnessed two overweight rabbis finagling themselves through a winding rock corridor in Tennessee while one screamed bloody murder at the other. Probably not the finest moment for the Jewish people. I'm getting anxiety thinking about it, actually. When we got to the other side, I was still freaking out. Sam thought this was hilarious. And I realized something important in that moment, that some journeys are only possible because of the people you are with and the things that they represent. Our Parsha for the week, Chayei Sarah, certainly reflects this idea. And it tells the story of perhaps, I think, one of the cutest couples in the Torah, Rebecca and Isaac. Now, ironically, the words Chayei Sarah literally means like the days of Sarah, the life of Sarah. But the Parsha begins with her death. Abraham is grieving, and after he buries her in the cave of Machpelah, Abraham decides it's time for a simcha. Decides he wants to marry off his son Isaac, so he sends his servant Eliezer to find Isaac a wife in his old stomping grounds, specifically the city of Nahor. And I love the innocence and ingenuity of Abraham's servant, Eliezer, because it's like he almost realizes online dating won't be a thing for a long time. So where in antiquity does one go to find a woman? There's no Target yet. There's no Sephora. Where does Eliezer go? Brilliant. He goes to the local watering hole, the well. It's where everybody would have had to go. And there he encounters Rivka, beautiful Rebecca. And the Torah tells us that she's a beautiful young virgin girl with a nose ring. More importantly, the Torah tells us that she had chesed, she had compassion, she had kindness. After all, she offers Eliezer and all of his camels water from the well. And eventually, Eliezer goes back to her house. It turns out she's actually related to Abraham. And Eliezer attempts to convince her family to allow him to take her back to Isaac. And naturally, they're a little skeptical, but eventually they come around. But they want to keep her for a bit longer, 10 more days at least, Eliezer. So the next part, this is a direct quote from the Torah. This is beautiful. All of the people involved, they say, let's call the young woman and ask her about it. So they call Rebecca and ask her, will you go with this man? I will go, she says. And the amount of bravery that Rebecca displays in this narrative is remarkable. She agrees to travel to a distant land with the guy that she just met to marry a complete stranger. But like I said, some journeys are only possible because of the people you are with and the things that they represent. For Rebecca, Eliezer represents opportunity for perhaps a better life, a new life, an adventurous life. And Isaac represents stability and romance and a renewed sense of family. Think about this just for a moment, friends. If Rebecca had not agreed to go on this journey, we, the Jewish people, might not be sitting here this morning. So this beautiful Shabbat, I'll ask you, my friends, who are the people on your journey? Who has led you here to this moment? What do they represent to you? Would you go through the eye of the needle with them? Would you put your confidence in them? Would you tell them your darkest secrets? Had Rebekah not gone with Eliezer, the Jewish people might not have ever grown or prospered. And had I not gone through that rock crevice, I wouldn't have a sermon this morning. Each of our journeys makes a difference, whether big or small. They all mean something in the grand narrative of life and the universe. Well, at the very end of Rock City Gardens, there was one final narrow corridor called, I'm not making this up, it was called the Fat Man Squeeze. I did not want to do this. So I mustered up all of my courage and I braced myself and I looked Sam straight in the face and said, I will be waiting in the car. Shabbat Shalom.